So yeah, I'm gonna start. Uh, I'm on Blackboard right now. I'm gonna go over to the class page. So I'm gonna go to course information. I'm gonna go to the course site. So one thing that's a little maybe confusing is that there's basically two websites that we're using. The course site is where I host all the notes, and it has like assignments and the schedule and stuff like that. And this is content that doesn't really change from semester to semester, so I host it on my own website. Um, the other site that we use is the Open Lab site. And this is where, for the most part, we're going to post content that's new for this semester. So that's really you guys. This is where you're going to post your work and your assignments as you create them. And that's what we're going to go over. That's the main thing I'm going to talk about tonight is how to make a post on here. This is just a WordPress site, so if you've used WordPress before, you may have some familiarity with this. If you've used the Open Lab in other ones of your classes, you may also already have some familiarity with this. But if neither of those things is the case, I'm still going to go over things. So you will have an overview of how this works. Um, so those are really the two sites, and there's a link on the Open Lab site to the class site, so you can get there or the schedule. And there's a couple other things on here. I'll post the class recordings here. Or actually, this will just go to the YouTube page. I need to update that. Maybe I'll do that in a second. Anyway, there's some other stuff on here, but that's what we're going to go over today. So if I go back to the class site and I go to the schedule, we're here in week 1, and what we're working on is assignment 1 right here. We're going to recreate an artwork. So as I mentioned on Monday, I have some suggestions for artists, and you can take a look at their work and choose an artwork that you want to try to recreate in P5. If you have other artists that you want to work with, that's fine. Just send me a link to something that you're interested in doing, just so I can take a look at it and say, that looks good or whatever. And with this assignment, it gives you a chance to kind of set your level of ambition, essentially. If you want to do something difficult, Kandinsky is a good option. Julio Leparc is a good option. Carmen Herrera is a good option. If you want to do something a little simpler, you might go something with one of Kazimir Malevich or one of the simpler versions of one of these other artists. So it's really up to you. And it's not a big deal if you go for something a little bit on the easier side. We're all just jumping into programming for the first time for the most part. So if you feel like you want to try to tackle something simple, that's good. If you feel like you want to try to do something a little more ambitious, that's also good. Um, I'm going to choose something by Julio Leparc. He's just an artist that I like a lot. And you can kind of see looking at these like, oh, some of these would be pretty easy. Some of them would be pretty hard, right? So you don't want to choose something that's going to be really, really hard. I'm going to try something with this one. I'm going to make kind of a version of this one. This is what I really like this one. And I've done this in a previous class using a different technique, but I thought of another way to do this, which I'm going to try to do right now. So once you pick the artwork that you like, you can, uh, you know, basically try to recreate this in P5. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to leave this here. Sorry about that. My cough just came back all of a sudden. I was doing pretty well all day, but I guess there we go. Anyway, I'm going to get started on this. So I'm going to go over to the P5 editor. You want to make sure you're logged in. So if you don't see your name up here or your username, there'll be a login button, and you can just click there to log in. Um, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn up the text size a little bit so you guys can read this more easily. Excuse me. And then the first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to put in a couple comments. Comments are things in code that we use to add text into the code that's not part of, oh, you know what? I'm not even streaming. You guys should, I'm recording, but I'm not streaming this. So you guys are like, what the hell is he doing? But maybe you're not. So if I'm doing something and it doesn't make any sense, please tell me so I'm not just sitting here. Don't be shy. You can use the chat, say, Professor, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh yeah, I just did a whole bunch of crap. You know what? So let's go back through it. This is gonna be a funny video, so you guys will have to remember to fast forward through the beginning of this. Okay, this is where I started. You guys are you guys are too shy for online learning. You should sign up for in-person classes. Um, so I started at Blackboard. Okay, I went to the course information page. I was talking about how we have two classes. We have the course site where I host my content for the class, which doesn't change from semester to semester. And then we have the Open Lab site, which is where you guys are going to post your projects throughout the semester. Um, so on the course site, there's a schedule. We're in this like week one area, and we're working on assignment one. So I'm going to demo how to do assignment one. As I mentioned, these are the artists. There's, a lot of different variation here. So choose one that you think is interesting and, think you can do. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but you can make it complicated if you want to. This is the artist I chose, Julio Leparc. I really like his work. And this is the work that I chose. So, as I mentioned, I did this in a different way in a previous semester. I'm going to try it a new way this semester. And I'm just going to use the basic stuff that we talked about on Monday. So, yeah, this is the link. This URL has a bunch of crap at the end. I'm just going to delete it. And there's a cleaner link. I'll put that in the voice chat. But what I really want to do with this link is save it in my code so I can find it later. Okay, so now I've chosen the artwork that I want to use. And so I'm going to go to the P5 editor. So here I am on the P5 editor, as I mentioned before. If you're not logged in, there's going to be a login button up here. So go ahead and log in so you can save your work. And I'm going to save this as assignment one. And this is for MNT 210, spring 2023. Okay, and so what I was about to do, so when I'm writing code, we didn't talk about this on Monday, but one of the things I want to do when I'm writing code is I want to put comments in my code, and I'll go into this in more detail in a later lesson. But a comment is basically just like writing something that's not going to be read by the code. So this is a way that you can take notes, you can make comments for other developers to read, and we'll talk a lot more about how to use comments in a future lesson. The way I can write a comment is just by adding two forward slashes, and you'll see the color changes. So if I write some text like this, it's going to be white. But if I put a little comment here and write some more text, it's going to be gray. So usually the code highlighting, you'll see like this yellow and this blue and stuff like that. This doesn't actually change the functionality of the code. It just makes it easier to see the different parts of the code. So different colors kind of go with different parts. Again, we'll go into a lot more detail with that. But for now, I'm just going to put a comment, recreate an artwork, and I'm going to put a link to this artwork. So that way I don't have to like remember where this is. I'm just going to copy that URL and paste it right there. And this comment is like too long for this line, so it goes to the next line, but that's okay. And so now I know I can go back and look at that artwork, and you could add other information here, like I could put the name of the work, segmented in rotation by Julio Lay Park. Uh, and there we go. So I've chosen the artwork and now I'm going to recreate it. So part of this is pretty obvious, right? I just have a bunch of circles. I'm not going to do quite as many because I don't need to do this exactly the same, but I want to recreate something kind of similar. So I'm going to look at this for a second. So basically, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 circles. And it starts with this, the flat side of the circle facing this way, and it rotates a little bit each time until it's facing this way. So that's like a that's kind of interesting that it rotates from there to there. Like it doesn't go from this way to this way or this way all the way back around. Um, so maybe what I'll do is I'll just cut off the last bit and not worry about that. That'll make my life a little bit easier. So I'll start with the first five and see how that goes. And if that's easy enough, I'll add these four. I don't, I want to show that I've understood how it works, but I don't really need to it doesn't have to be exhaustive. It has to be recognizable. So I'm going to go back to my code and I'm just going to start with a circle and I'm going to worry about the edge later. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a little trick that I'm going to try to use to get rid of that edge. But there's different ways that you could approach it. But I'm going to try to keep things simple. I'm just going to use the stuff that we've looked at so far in the class. Um, and one other thing is I can see that this canvas is a lot wider than it is tall, right? It's like this is like, I don't know, probably maybe 200 or 300 pixels, and this is more like 1,000 or maybe even more. So I'm going to make my canvas a little bit um, longer and a little bit less tall. So I'll try making it like 1,000 and maybe just 200 pixels. That looks pretty similar. Oops. Okay. And I can't see the whole thing unless I move this over here, but there's like a little scroll bar down here. Okay. So let's see. Uh, so I have this background color. It's not really gray. It's kind of like an off-white. I'm gonna see if off-white is a color. Yeah, actually, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna stick with that. Um, and then I'm going to start with my first circle. So the default fill for a circle is white. So I need to change the fill first. So I need to change the fill to black. And there's no outlines on these circles. So even though the default outline is black and it would match, I don't really want to do that. So I'm just going to turn off the stroke. So I'm going to say no stroke. So there's no outline on the circle. And then I'm just going to draw a circle. And I want to place it um, basically like right here because it's a little bit offset from the beginning. And so remember this here is 0, 0, 0x and 0y. And so I want to move in. I think this is probably about 200 and down. I think that's about 100. So I'm going to try 200x, 100y. And I want it to be like half this size. And I know this distance right here is 200 because that's what I set over here. So half of 200 is 100. So that's what I'm going to set for the size of my circle. So let's see how that looks. So I'm going to move over 200 on X. I'm going to move down 100 on Y. And I'm going to make the circle 100 pixels in size. Okay, that's pretty good. It's a little too far over just looking at it. So I might try like 150 instead. That looks pretty good actually. Okay, so I've got my first circle. So now I just need a bunch of these. As I mentioned, I'm going to start with the first five. So I'm just going to do like a quarter rotation to start. So one easy way to do this is I just copy this and paste it a bunch of times. So now I'm drawing 5 circles, but they're all in the same place. They're all sitting at this center point, 150 X, 100, Y. So we don't see 5 circles, even though I'm drawing 5 circles. But what I need to do is move them across. And since I know this circle is 100, I know if I move this point 100 over here, then the circle will be like exactly lined up, which is not what I want. What I want is it for it to be like a little bit over. So that might be like 150, it may be like 200. But instead of like changing this number, so a lot of the time the first thing I would do is like change this number to 250 and see like, oh, okay, that's what that looks like. Let's change this number again. What I want to do instead here is just do add, because remember I can do math inside of my parameters between the commas. So I can say what's 150 plus 100. That's not quite right. 200 is a little too far. So 150 is probably right. So now I can just take this plus 150 and copy it. So I'm just hitting Command C, and I'm just going to paste it. Um, let's see. Okay, so 150. Oh, but I'm just adding the same number over and over again. That's not really going to help. No stroke gets rid of the outline. So we can't tell right now because there's an outline that's black by default. But if I turn both of these things off, you would see the default for my circles is a black outline and a white fill, which is the middle. So if I turn the fill to black, now we see it. And so you don't actually see the outline because it's the same color, but I'm turning it off anyway because I know it's not supposed to have an outline, so I don't want to draw an outline, even though we don't see it. Okay, so what can I do here? So I have 150 plus 150. So the next one, I'm starting at 150 and I'm adding 150, so I'm in the same place here. And so I could add another 150 and that'll move me over. But remember, I can also use multiplication. So if I use an asterisk here, I could say like, okay, let's just do 150 times 2. That's going to be the same thing. Now I have something I can repeat. So I can do 150 times 3, and I can go 150 times 4. Okay, so now I've got my 5 circles. And I did that without really doing that much math. Like otherwise I would have had to say 150 plus 150 is 300, plus 150 is 450, plus 150 is 600. I would have had to keep adding. But if I do multiplication, it's a little bit easier. You don't have to do it that way. You can just play with the numbers until it goes where you want it to. But that's one way to use math to kind of save yourself a little time. Okay, so I've got my circles, so that's pretty good. Now here's the hard part. In this painting, and let me see if I can zoom in on this painting a little bit. I'm gonna go to, um, oh, it's like locked. It won't let me, oh, it says I can't view it at full screen. Okay, I'm just gonna increase, there we go. I'm just hitting Command plus to zoom in on the whole website. Where'd it go? Okay, there we go. Okay, so these circles, if I want to, make it look, if I want to do this rotation thing that's happening, I basically have to cut off this part of the circle. So the way I did this last time is instead of using the circle uh, function, I used the arc function. And the arc function lets you like cut off parts of it. Hi, son. No worries. We're just uh, going over the assignment 1. So yeah. Uh, so yeah, I'm just gonna go over. I'm gonna finish up my demo of assignment 1. I'm gonna show you guys how to post it on OpenLab, and then we'll have time for you guys to work after that. But what I'm gonna do now instead is I'm gonna draw a line here, and I'm gonna make the line and the background the same color. So it's gonna go over the circle, but it's not gonna look like it's there because I'm gonna blend it to the background. And so that's my idea for another way to do this. And so let's see how that goes. So I'm going to put like lines here, just a little comment, and I'm going to change the stroke because lines don't have fills. Line is just a line. It doesn't have a center. So a line is just a stroke. So I'm going to do a stroke. And for now, I'm just going to do blue so I can actually see it. And then I'm going to draw a line. And then later I'm going to go back and I'm going to change the color here to match the background. Um, so then it'll look like that part is cut out. So what I need for this line, remember that a line is 2 points and P5 draws in between. So I need this line to like cut off right here. And then I'm going to make it kind of a thick line. So I'll cut off this edge a little bit. And then I'm going to have to like rotate it around like this and like this. It might be kind of hard, but I think I can figure it out. And if not, whatever, I'll get something close enough. So I need to do that basically. So these first 2 points are going to be a little bit tricky to figure out, but I know a couple things. I know that this circle is at x is 150 and y is 100. And I know that the height of the circle is 100, and I know that um, the width of the circle is 100. So a couple things I can figure out pretty quickly. This point up here is probably going to be lined up with this edge, and that edge is 150, which is where it is on x, minus half of this circle, which is 50. So that's probably going to be 100. Um, and then I also know that this line probably needs to be as big as the circle itself. So the length this way probably needs to be 100. So this y down here, I think, is going to be 100. Or actually, I don't know that quite yet. Let's undo that for a second. So we know the length here. Then we know this point, we probably want to line up here. So that's going to be 150 on the y minus this again is 50. It's a circle, so everything is even. So this is also 100 up here. So this is actually probably going to be at 100, 100. So then this x is going to stay the same because it's not moving this way or this way. So this x down here is also going to be 100. And then I know that this height is 100. So this y is 100 plus 100 is 200. So I'm pretty sure those are my x coordinates. My 2 points is 100, 100, and this one is 100, 200. I'm going to give that a try and see how it looks, and then I'll fix it. Oops. Okay, so the first one was 100, 100. So that's x and then y. The tricky part with lines, I mean, they all do this. They all go x, y, x, y, but it's the x and the y, then another x and y, not like the circle was the x and the y and then the size. So the second point is x stays at 100 because we're going straight down, and y goes up to 200. Okay, that wasn't exactly right. So let's see. My y is too far down. So let's try 50 for the y. Okay, that's better. So then this y is like 150. Okay, cool. And then I need to make the line bigger. So I need to say stroke weight, and I'm going to try 10. Okay, so now my line is cutting off the edge of the circle. I think I need to cut off a little bit more. Let's try 20. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so now I'm cutting off the edge of the circle. Now I'm going to change this color to off-white. That actually looks pretty good. I didn't know how well that would work, but it looks pretty much the same. Okay, that's pretty cool. So now we just have to recreate that line a couple times. I'm going to change the color back to blue so I can see it. So the other ones are going to be trickier. So what I have to do now is I have to take these points, which are actually, this is x is 100. Y is 50, which is what it looks like. This is 100. This is obviously less than 100, so it makes sense that that's 150. This point down here is 100x, 150y. So we just moved down 100 points here. So first I have to move the whole thing to here, which is just adding that 150. So we just have to take the x's and add 150 here. Then the tricky part is I have to like rotate this line so it's like this. Let's look at so it starts like here and it goes up. So it starts like around here and it goes up to like here. I'm probably not going to be able to get this that well, but I'm just going to give it a try. And you know, if it's not perfect, it's not the end of the world, at least for this particular thing. So I'm going to make another line. Let's actually just copy this line. So I'm using my keyboard. I'm just holding Command Shift and then I hit the arrow key back to select the whole thing. And then I just hit copy and then paste. Actually, you know what? In P5, if I'm on this line and I don't select anything and I hit Command C, it's going to copy that line anyway. So that's easier. So I'm going to copy the line. I'm going to start by adding 150 to both x values. So that's the first x value. Here's the second x value. And there we go. Now we have our second line. Now we just have to move it over. So we definitely need to move this point this way, right? That's obvious. And then this point needs to kind of go like this-ish way. Um, so let's try a couple things. So we need to move the top point over. So we need to actually move x over a little bit. So I'm going to add another plus here because I know I have to go 150 over each time, but this value is going to be something different. So I don't want it to be together. So I'm just going to try 50. Okay, that's probably too far. Let's try 25. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Now I gotta move the bottom point up a little bit. So I'm gonna go to the second Y. This is the second Y. I'm gonna do minus. So if I'm in Y, if I'm on Y and I want to go up, Y is actually goes if I Y gets bigger as it goes down the page. So if I want to go up, I have to subtract. So I'm gonna say I'm just gonna try the same number, 25. That actually looks pretty good. I think the stroke weight is, I think we're going to see a little bit. Let's try this. And actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put stroke weight off white here, and then uh, I can turn it off by commenting it out instead of changing the color every time. Okay, so it looks decent, but we see a little bit of an edge there, so I need to move it back a little bit. Um, So let's try, but it's just going to be like a tiny little bit. I'm going to try something. I'm going to try saying plus, or I'm going to try moving both x's back like negative 25. I don't know if this is going to work, but I think it might work. Nope, that was too much. So let's try moving x's back negative 10. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so it's starting to get more complicated. Um, it's probably, you know, you guys don't have to do this for your homework because obviously there's a lot of numbers here. So it's probably starting to look kind of confusing. But basically, this is just like one X value. And the reason I'm doing all these different numbers is because it's easier in my head for me personally, instead of adding stuff together and then moving it around. I know certain things. Like I know that this 100 is where I want to start. And I know 150 is how far I need to go over to get to the next circle. And I know that this 25, well, that's just a guess. The 25 is how far more I thought I had to go. And then the 10 is actually, I had to go back a little bit. The 50 is from the original Y, so I knew that already. This one is kind of the same thing. I had to move the X over, but then I had to come back a little bit. And then this Y, I had to move up a little bit. So I'm going to leave that as it is. And then I'm going to try the next one. So I'm going to copy this one. And you could also put a comment here, like you could say like X position plus next circle plus offset or something like that if you want to be able to remember these things. We are going to learn better ways to do this stuff in a couple weeks, but for now, I'm just kind of working with the basics. Okay, so I don't want to take forever on this. I'm just going to try to do the next couple um, right, without too much more work. So I'm going to go back to the blue color. So for my next one, I need 2 times 150. That's going to get too crazy, so I'm just going to put 300 there. So I'm going to put 300 into both of those x's. And now I have to move everything over. So I'm going to see what happens if I just do plus 50 and minus 50 over here. Okay, that's not bad. I think I need to go up a little bit. So I'm going to do For this y, I'm going to do like minus 25. Too far, minus 10. Okay, that's not too bad actually. This isn't going to look exactly the same, but it's going to look kind of similar. Okay, next one, and then I get to an easy one. So this last one, let's add here. So this becomes 450. This becomes 450. And then we have to move everything over again. So this goes to 100, and this goes to probably like 75. Okay, I'm just gonna stick with that. It looks pretty good. I'm not gonna spend too much time. So then this last one, this one's gonna be a little bit easier. So I'm gonna start with the same basic thing, where it's like starting point times like whatever, but then I'm just gonna go straight across here. So I'm gonna start like, this x, this y I know is 50. I'm gonna figure out this x, and then I'm just gonna add 100 here. So let's see. So start at 100, add, we're up to 600 now because we're on the fifth circle, and that's it. And then the y I think is 50. And then the next x is the same thing, except we're going to move over another 100, and the y stays 50. And I think that should be it. And I'm going to stop there because I have more circles if I want to complete the art, but that's actually pretty decent. I'm not too upset about that. It's a little bit longer than it needs to be, so I'm going to trim off this end. So maybe I need like 800. No, I need more than that, 900. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so I'm gonna post, so now I'm done with my assignment. And now what I want to do is post this on the Open Lab. So that's how I'm going to submit my assignment for, for the reason we put it on the Open Lab is that way everything is collected together so we can look at everybody's work together. Because we're going to do a lot of that in this class. Like we're going to look at everybody's work and everybody's code just to kind of review together. So you guys will see what each other are writing. You'll get a sense of different ways that you might approach things, and we'll get ideas from each other. And the other thing is when I see stuff, I'll be able to say, this looks good, but maybe try this. And we can learn from each other's mistakes as well, because we are going to all make lots of mistakes. I still make tons and tons of mistakes as a programmer all the time. So that's just part of learning. We don't really want to avoid making mistakes. Where mistakes is part of the process. Okay, so I'm happy with this, and I want to post it on the Open Lab. One of the things that I want to make sure to do is have some good documentation. Um, Basically, documentation is, just your way of showing the work that you've done. So if you're a designer, if you're an artist, if you're a programmer, if you're really any type of creative person, you want to have documentation of your work because that's what really shows that you know how to do what you're doing. You can have a great CV, you went to Harvard and you got the best SAT score and stuff like that, but if you can't actually do good work, people aren't going to want to hire you. So when you're in a creative field, or even if you're just in a tech field in general, your credentials are important. You definitely need credentials. I'm not saying that you don't, but your portfolio a lot of the time is more important. Showing that you can do what your credentials say you can do is very important. So you want to be able to do good documentation. And later in the semester, I'll show you guys, hopefully, one of the goals for me and hopefully for you guys is that you'll make work in this class that you'll really like and think is really good, and you'll want to put it in your portfolio to show, later on when you're applying for jobs or when you're transferring, all these other scenarios. And so one of the nice things about the Open Lab is there's an easy way to add stuff from a class blog like the one we have into your personal portfolio. So we're going to have our blog that has everybody's work, but if you want to take it out and put it into your own thing, there's an easy way to do that as well. We're not going to do that today, but we'll go over it later in the semester. Okay, enough blabbing. Excuse me. Let's post this. So, one thing I want is an image. there's an easy way to get an image from this. You guys probably know how to like screen capture and stuff like that. But if you do that with this, there's a couple ways that you could do it, like on the Mac or on the Windows. But you're gonna end up like kind of cutting it out, and you're gonna see the edges. It's not gonna look very good. So one way that you can capture your canvas in P5, there's an easy way to do it. Um, it's something that we don't really know how to do yet. I mean, we haven't really learned a lot yet. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to show you guys how to do this just to capture the image. So we need to add a function that we don't have yet, which is called mouse pressed. This is just to do something when we click on the canvas, and we just have to say save, and then you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call this artwork.jpg. So this is going to save an image of the canvas on my computer. Um, so if I run this again and then I click on the canvas, you can see, it downloaded that image. And so I'm going to leave that in my downloads folder for now. But when I make my Open Lab post, I'm going to put it on there. Okay, so we are ready to make our post. Let's go back to the Open Lab page. So you are going to need to sign up for the Open Lab. I can see most of you guys have done that already. If you haven't yet, you should see a link when you go to this page that says like sign up, and you just have to go through those steps. And once you do, you'll be able to post on here. So you'll see this menu like I see at the top of my page. And to start a new post, you just click on the little edit button right here that looks like a pencil. So if you just click on there, it's going to bring you to the post editor. Um, oh, mm, that's not what I want. This is a little bit different for me because I, oh no, this is the edit button. Sorry, this is to edit the page I'm on. This is the button we want, the plus button. Okay, so you can add a new post or a page or blah, blah, blah. So we just want to add a post. That's the default. So if I just click on the plus button or the post button, it'll make a new post for me. This is, excuse me, the post editing interface. Again, if you've used WordPress before, you've seen this. If not, that's okay. A couple quick things about the interface. The WordPress interface, you can basically just like write stuff directly into it, and then there's certain different types of things you can add to it. There's a menu over here which you can turn on and off. You probably want to have it on because there's certain things you need to do. And then it's always going to have this like please select a category. So you don't have to do it, you can do it later, but that always annoys me. So usually the first thing I do is select a category. So I have to have this menu open, and then I click on this categories area, and there are categories for all the assignments. So you can just look through and find the category. I don't know why I didn't add the name of this, but it's just assignment one. So just add the category and that red area will go away. Then you can add a title. Feel free to put whatever you want as the title. I'm going to use the name of the artwork that I chose, which is Segmented in Rotation by Julio Leparc. So I'm going to call this Segmented in Rotation by Julio Leparc in P5. Okay, so then the first thing that I actually want to add here is the image that I just added. So if I want to just type stuff, I can do that. But if I want to add media or other types of things, then I need to use these little blocks. So I'm going to hit this plus, and it's one of the default options, but if you don't see it there, you can type in image and it should show up. So once you're ready, you can type in the image, and this adds this image block, and you can either drag and drop your image in there, or you can click upload and get it from your computer. So if I go down here, I can find this artwork image that I downloaded from P5 and click open, and it's going to embed that in the page. And you can add a caption if you want to. You don't need to, but I'll just put uh, or captured image. And then we can write a little body in the post. So I can say I chose segmented in rotation by Julio Le Parc to recreate for assignment one. And then you can add in links in here. So if I want somebody to be able to see this image, to see how what a great job I did recreating it, if I highlight this text and then this little menu will come up, I can click on this little link button. I can also hit Command K, and then I can paste a link in here. So I'm going to go back to this tab and just copy this link. So I'm just going to Command C, copy the URL, and I'll post it in here. And then, oh, it disappeared, but there's a little option here. I can barely see it. Let's hit enter and then bring it back up. Okay, there we go. Or wait, no, that's not the link. There we go. So there's a little option here that says open a new tab. Usually I want to turn that on so it doesn't replace my page. It's going to open a new window. So now I've got a link, and now I need to add a link to my code. That's the most important thing, really, is for us to see your code. So when you do your P5 code, you can just copy the URL from the browser bar up here, or you can go to File and go to Share, and you can copy the edit link here, which is the same link. So once that's copied, you can go back here, excuse me, and you can just paste this in, and you don't want it to embed. We don't want to embed on the page. Just click Convert to Link. And so you can just paste it in as a link. That's fine. If you want to write something here, you can edit this. So if I want to, make this show up as like, click here to see my code on P5. You can change that link so it has some text on it, and that's really all you have to do. If you want to write other stuff about why you chose it or what you liked about it, feel free to elaborate. But this is really everything that you need to do as far as the assignment. So once you're done, there's a preview button. I recommend previewing it. Sometimes weird things happen that you don't expect. So it's going to generate a preview. You're going to see what it's going to look like when you publish it. You can test, okay, that link works. That link works. It's good to test the links. A lot of people send me stuff that doesn't work. And that's pretty much it. If you're happy with the preview, we can close that and go back here. And there's a big blue publish button. And it'll ask you again, do you want to publish? And you can just say yes. And then once you've published it, you can always edit it later. So there's a couple ways to do that. So now that it's published, I'm going to click View Post. And this is going to be live on the page. So if I go to my posts page here, you'll see this post that I just created. So your post will show up here as well. And then you can actually filter this. So if I click on assignment 1, that's going to show a category of everybody's assignment 1. And if I click on this, you'll also see your name down here, and you'll be also able to see everything by a particular author. So if you want to see all of your work together, you can click on that. I'm almost done. The last thing that you need to do, because the grading is in Blackboard, you do have to make a submission in Blackboard in order for me to do the grading. So you don't have to write anything, just copy a link to this page. You want to be careful you copy the right link. So there's a lot of different links going on. There's like the main page of the blog, there's the post page, but what I really want is a link to this specific page. So usually it'll be kind of a long link. I don't want to link to the page that you edited in. That's a different link. So let's go back to that for a second. So if I click on edit, so I can see that because I wrote this post. You'll be able to see it on your own posts, but not other people's posts. You can go back and make changes. So if you mess something up or if you want to add more, you can go back and edit. And then you just click update, and that'll update the post. The URL will stay the same. So you can update that post. Sometimes people send me this link, which is a link to you editing, which is not what I want. What I want is the link to the post itself. So that you can get, again, if you published and went back to WordPress and then you editing, it's under this permalink here. So you can copy it from there, or you can click on it and then copy it from there. Oh, Riley, if you don't see the plus, you may not be logged in. Check to see if you're logged in. If there's like a login button or a sign up button, you may need to update that. Another thing that you can do when you're on the blog, if you go to this menu here and go to dashboard, you'll see like the dashboard for the whole blog. you'll see that you only have access to your own content. I have a lot, since I own the blog, I have access to a lot more stuff. But you'll be able to see all of your posts here. And so you'll be able to like edit stuff. Like you can click on a post and it'll take you back to the editor. You can change the category and do other stuff like that. Okay, so finally, the last bit, we've published our thing. We've got the right link, which is right here. I'm going to copy that. Now I'm ready to submit my assignment. So I'm going to go back to Blackboard. I'm going to turn on student preview for a second. So when you're logged into Blackboard, you can go to assignments. This is assignment one. I'm going to click on there. And then you can check the rubric and, sorry, it opened up in a different window. Um, um, Oh yeah, Riley, you may need to join the class, the blog itself. I'll put a link in the voice chat in just a second to do that. Um, okay, so check the rubric. So the rubric shows everything that you have to do for this project. And once you've double checked that you've done everything, all you have to do is click Write Submission and just paste that URL in here. You really don't have to write anything else. You don't have to add the image. You don't have to add your code in here. All I want in Blackboard is just the URL, and I'll just go to the Open Lab and review it, and then I'll do the grading in Blackboard. So you'll get a grade in Blackboard with my comments on it. Another reminder that if you don't get the grade you want, if you get points off and you want to redo it, resubmit it, you can always resubmit the assignment as many times as you want to get your grade up to 100 or whatever you want it to be. So then you just click submit and you're done. So I'm going to exit this. And then, yeah, so another thing is if you are logged in, but you haven't joined the blog, that may prevent you from posting. So to join, you have to go to this link, which is like the Open Lab page for the WordPress site. We don't really use this, so I'm not going to talk about this a whole lot, but it's kind of annoying. There's these two different components to it. But anyway, just go here. This is like the group page, and mine says clone because I made it, but yours is going to say join. And once you click join, you'll see yourself as a member down here. You can make yourself uh, an icon if you want. If you go to my profile, you can edit your avatar, you can change your information and stuff like that. But basically, all you really need to do is click join, and that will give you access to the blog to post. All right, looks like that worked. Okay, that's it. Hopefully all of that makes sense. I'm going to stop the recording.